They say one decision can change your entire life. Emily Carter never believed that, until she answered a phone call she should have ignored. Within 24 hours, she went from invisible to unforgettable. Within a week, she was flying to Dubai with the CEO. Within a month, she was facing a choice, her career or her heart, and the clock was ticking. The November wind howled against the glass windows of the Richardson International Trading Building on North Michigan Avenue, making the massive structure groan like an old ship at sea. Emily Carter pulled her cardigan tighter around her shoulders as she organized files at her desk on the 10th floor, watching the gray clouds roll over Lake Michigan in the distance. Another thrilling Monday, she muttered to herself, stapling together the quarterly reports that nobody seemed to read anyway. 3 years at Richardson International, and she was still the invisible girl who kept the administrative department running while others took the credit. Her phone buzzed, then buzzed again, and again. Emily frowned. The main reception line rarely rang this persistently on her extension. She picked up, expecting another sales call. "Richardson International Trading, how may I help you?" she answered, in her practiced professional voice. A rapid stream of Arabic poured through the receiver. Emily's heart skipped. She hadn't heard her mother's language in months, not since the last awkward family dinner where her father's side and her mother's side had barely spoken to each other. Without thinking, muscle memory took over. "Yes, how can I help you?" she responded smoothly in Arabic. The caller seemed relieved, explaining in urgent tones that he was calling from Dubai about tomorrow's crucial meeting with Mr. David Richardson, the CEO himself. There had been a mix-up with the contract details, and he needed clarification immediately. Emily's mind raced. She knew about this meeting. Everyone knew about this meeting. The entire company had been buzzing about it for weeks. Richardson International was trying to secure a massive partnership with Al Mansour Holdings, a deal worth $40 million that could expand their Middle Eastern operations exponentially. "One moment, please, I will transfer you to the appropriate department," Emily said in Arabic, her fingers already flying across her keyboard to find the number for Robert Chen, the company's official translator. She dialed. It rang once, twice, then went to voicemail. Strange. Emily tried his cell phone. Voicemail again. The Arabic voice on hold was growing impatient. She could hear him sighing through the line. She made a split-second decision that would change everything. "Sir, I apologize for the wait. I can help you with this matter. Let me pull up the contract details." For the next 15 minutes, Emily navigated the conversation with surprising ease, her Arabic flowing more naturally than it had in years. She clarified the shipping terms, confirmed the timeline, and reassured the caller that everything would be perfect for tomorrow's meeting at 9 in the morning. When she finally hung up, her hands were shaking slightly. Not from nervousness, but from the thrill of actually using her skills for something that mattered. "Carter!" Emily jumped, nearly knocking over her coffee mug. Standing in the doorway of the administrative office was James Mitchell, the company's chief operating officer, his usually calm face flushed with stress. "Yes, Mr. Mitchell." She stood up quickly, smoothing her navy blue dress. "Have you seen Robert Chen? His phone is off and we need him urgently. There's a crisis with tomorrow's meeting. I actually just spoke with the clients from Dubai," Emily said carefully. "They called the main line. I was able to help them with their questions." James Mitchell's eyebrows shot up so high they nearly disappeared into his receding hairline. "You speak Arabic?" "My mother is from Lebanon. I grew up bilingual, though I am a bit rusty. Come with me, now." Before Emily could protest, James was already striding down the hallway toward the executive elevators, his Italian leather shoes clicking against the marble floor. Emily grabbed her notepad and hurried after him, her heart pounding. They rode the elevator in silence to the 23rd floor, the executive level that Emily had only visited twice in 3 years, both times to deliver documents. The doors opened to reveal a world of dark wood paneling, contemporary art, and floor-to-ceiling windows that made Chicago look like a toy city below. James knocked once on the imposing double doors at the end of the hall, then pushed them open without waiting for a response. "David, I've found someone who can help." Emily stepped into the office and immediately felt like she had entered a different universe. The space was enormous, with a sitting area, a conference table, and a massive desk positioned to face the windows overlooking the Chicago River and Lake Michigan beyond. The late afternoon sun was breaking through the clouds, casting golden light across the room. Behind the desk sat David Richardson himself. Emily had seen him before, of course, in company meetings and passing through the lobby. But she had never been this close. He was younger than she expected, maybe in his late 30s, with dark hair that looked like he had been running his hands through it all day, sharp blue eyes, and the kind of angular jaw that belonged on a movie screen rather than behind a desk. He had loosened his tie, and his white shirt sleeves were rolled up to his elbows, revealing forearms that suggested he did more than just sit in boardrooms. Right now, those blue eyes looked exhausted and stressed. "James, unless you found Robert Chen or a miracle, I do not have time for—" "She speaks Arabic," James interrupted, gesturing to Emily. David Richardson's gaze shifted to Emily for the first time, really looking at her. She resisted the urge to check if she had something in her teeth. "You speak Arabic," he repeated, his voice deep and skeptical. It was not a question. "Yes, sir. I mean, yes, Mr. Richardson. Fluently." Emily's voice came out steadier than she felt. "I just finished a call with Mr. Al-Mansour's office. They had questions about the contract terms, which I was able to address." Something flickered across David Richardson's face. Surprise. Relief. He stood up, and Emily realized he was tall, at least 6'2", and moved with the kind of confidence that came from years of commanding rooms full of powerful people. "Robert Chen has pneumonia," David said, walking around his desk to lean against it, arms crossed. "He is in the hospital, and will be for at least a week. Tomorrow morning at 9 I have the most important meeting of this company's history with 3 executives from Al-Mansour Holdings. Everything depends on clear, precise communication. No room for error." He studied Emily with an intensity that made her feel like he was reading her resume, her entire life story, and her deepest fears all at once. "What is your name?" "Emily Carter, sir." "I work in administrative. Can you handle technical business terminology? Financial projections, shipping logistics, international trade regulations?" Emily thought about the countless reports she had formatted, filed, and, yes, actually read over the past 3 years. She thought about the economics degree she had earned from Northwestern University, the one that had somehow only qualified her for administrative work because she had been too afraid to push for more. "Yes, Mr. Richardson, I can handle it." A long pause filled the room. James Mitchell shifted nervously. Outside the windows, a flock of birds wheeled past, dark silhouettes against the brightening sky. Finally, David Richardson nodded, a decision made. "Be here tomorrow morning at 7. Sharp. Wear something professional but not intimidating. We need them to trust us, to see us as partners, not corporate sharks. Tonight, I am sending you every document related to this deal. Study them. Know them cold." "Can you do that?" Emily's mind was spinning. This was insane, this was opportunity, this was terrifying. "Yes, sir, I can do that." "Good. James will get you set up with access to everything." David turned back to his desk, already reaching for his phone, the dismissal clear. Then he paused and looked back at Emily. "And Carter, thank you for answering that call." As Emily followed James back to the elevator, her hands were trembling again. This time she was not sure if it was from excitement, fear, or the way David Richardson had looked at her in those final seconds. Like maybe, just maybe, he was seeing her as something more than invisible. The elevator doors closed, and Emily caught her reflection in the polished brass. She barely recognized the woman staring back, eyes bright with possibility. Tomorrow, everything would change. She just did not know how much. Emily's studio apartment in Logan Square had never felt smaller. Every surface was covered with printed documents. Her laptop balanced precariously on a stack of pillows on her bed, and her third cup of coffee had gone cold on the windowsill. It was 2 in the morning. Outside, the neighborhood was quiet except for the occasional rumble of the Blue Line train a few blocks away. The streetlights cast orange shadows through her window, painting stripes across the financial projections she had been studying for the past 6 hours. Shipping logistics, tariff regulations, profit margins, Emily muttered, rubbing her tired eyes. Her cat Humphrey, a fat orange tabby she had rescued from an alley behind Pequod's Pizza, meowed disapprovingly from his spot on her only chair. I know, this is crazy." She scratched behind his ears. "But Humphrey, this could be it. This could be my chance to actually matter there." Her phone buzzed. An email from David Richardson sent at 1:47 a.m. Carter, attached are 3 additional reports. Review section 4 carefully. The profit-sharing structure is where they will push back. Be ready. Dr. Emily stared at the email. The CEO of a multi-million-dollar company was awake at almost 2 in the morning, working. No, please, no if you have time, just expectations. She opened the attachments and groaned. Another 100 pages. Why did I say yes to this? She asked Humphrey, who had no answers, only judgmental purring. But she knew why. Because for 3 years she had been invisible. Because her economics degree had been gathering dust while she stapled reports and organized files. Because when she had tried to apply for analyst positions within the company, she had been told she was too valuable in her current role. Corporate speak for stay in your lane. And maybe, just maybe, because of the way David Richardson had looked at her in that final moment, like she was capable of more. Emily pulled her blanket around her shoulders and dove back into the reports. 6 hours later, Emily stood in front of her closet in complete panic. Professional but not intimidating, she repeated David Richardson's words like a mantra. What does that even mean? She pulled out her black suit, too severe, the navy dress she had worn yesterday, too casual, the gray blazer with pants, too boring. Her phone alarm blared. 6:15 a.m. She needed to leave in 20 minutes to make it downtown by 7. Screw it. Emily grabbed the navy dress, paired it with a cream blazer she had bought on sale at Nordstrom Rack and barely worn, and her most comfortable heels, the black ones that did not make her wobble like a newborn giraffe. She checked her reflection. Professional? Yes. Intimidating? Only if someone was scared of a 5'6" woman who looked like she ran on pure anxiety and caffeine. Good enough. The L train was packed with the usual morning crowd, nurses heading to Northwestern Memorial, lawyers clutching their coffee like lifelines, students with their headphones on. Emily gripped the pole and mentally reviewed the documents, her mind a whirlwind of numbers and terms. When she emerged at the State and Lake Station, the sun was just rising over the Chicago River, turning the water into liquid gold. The city was waking up, and for the first time in years, Emily felt like she was waking up with it. The Richardson International Trading Building looked different at 7 in the morning. The lobby was quieter, the usual bustle of hundreds of employees not yet begun. Emily's heels clicked against the marble as she headed to the executive elevators, her visitor badge clipped to her blazer. When the elevator doors opened on the 23rd floor, she found David Richardson already there, standing by the floor-to-ceiling windows with his back to her, phone pressed to his ear. I do not care if he is the best in New York. I need someone here, now. His voice was tight with frustration. Fine. Keep trying. He turned and spotted Emily. For a moment, something like relief crossed his face before his professional mask slid back into place. Carter. Good. You are early. He pocketed his phone and gestured to the conference room adjacent to his office. Coffee? I have had enough coffee to fuel a small rocket ship, sir, Emily said, then immediately regretted her attempt at humor. But David Richardson's mouth twitched, almost a smile. Same. Let us get started. The conference room was intimidating. A massive glass table, leather chairs that probably cost more than her monthly rent, and a view of Lake Michigan that took her breath away. The sun was fully up now, painting the water in shades of blue and silver. David pulled out a chair for her, a gesture so unexpectedly courteous that Emily fumbled slightly as she sat down. He took the seat across from her, not at the head of the table, and spread out a single document between them. This is the final contract, he said. Walk me through it in Arabic. Every section. I need to know you can handle the terminology flawlessly. For the next hour, Emily translated. David Richardson listened with complete focus, his blue eyes never leaving her face, occasionally stopping her to ask questions or clarify a term. She stumbled once over a shipping regulation term, and his expression sharpened. Do not guess, he said, not unkindly. If you do not know, say so. I would rather pause the meeting than have miscommunication. Emily nodded, her cheeks flushing. She found the correct term and continued. As she translated a particularly complex profit-sharing clause, David leaned back in his chair, and for the first time he looked something other than stressed. Almost impressed? Where did you learn Arabic? He asked suddenly. My mother. She moved to Chicago from Beirut when she was 25. She insisted I grow up bilingual, said it would open doors. Emily laughed, a bit bitterly. Though until yesterday, the most I have used it for is ordering from the Lebanese restaurant on Kedzie Avenue. Northwestern, right? Economics degree? Emily blinked. How did you... I looked at your file last night. David tapped his phone. 3.7 GPA, Dean's List, thesis on international trade dynamics in emerging markets. Yet you have been in administrative for 3 years. The room suddenly felt smaller. Emily's throat tightened. I applied for analyst positions twice. I was told I was too valuable where I was. That is corporate garbage for, we are too lazy to train someone new for your current job. David's voice had an edge to it. It is also how companies lose good people. Before Emily could respond, his phone buzzed. He glanced at it and stood abruptly. They are early, 15 minutes out. He buttoned his suit jacket, transforming instantly from almost approachable to CEO mode. Remember, Carter, confidence. You know this material. They are coming to us because they need what we offer. We are partners, not supplicants. Emily stood, smoothing her dress with shaking hands. Yes, sir. David walked to the door, then paused and turned back. And Emily? It was the first time he had used her first name. Breathe, you have got this. Then he was gone, leaving Emily alone in the conference room with her racing heart and the spectacular view of Chicago spread out below like a promise. She walked to the window, pressed her forehead against the cool glass and whispered to herself in Arabic, a prayer her mother had taught her long ago. The elevator dinged in the distance. Showtime. The 3 executives from Al Mansour Holdings entered the conference room like they owned it, which Emily supposed they might soon partially do if this deal went through. Khalid Al Mansour led the group, silver-haired, impeccably dressed in a charcoal suit that probably cost more than Emily's car. His handshake was firm, his smile diplomatic. Behind him came Omar Rashid, younger, with sharp eyes that seemed to calculate everything, and Fatima Hassan, the only woman in their delegation, wearing an elegant burgundy suit and an expression that suggested she did not suffer fools. David Richardson greeted them with practiced ease, and then his hand settled briefly on Emily's shoulder, a gesture of inclusion that sent an unexpected warmth through her nervous system. This is Emily Carter, our senior translator and cultural liaison specialist, David said smoothly. Senior translator. Emily had been promoted twice in one sentence, neither time officially. She extended her hand to Khalid Al Mansour and greeted him in Arabic, keeping her tone respectful but professional. His eyebrows rose in pleasant surprise. Your Arabic is excellent, Miss Carter, he responded in Arabic. Lebanese dialect, if I am not mistaken. My mother is from Beirut, sir. I grew up with her stories of home. Something softened in Khalid's expression. Then you understand that business is built on trust, on family, on knowing who sits across from you. I do, sir, and I hope today we can begin building that trust. As everyone settled into their chairs, Emily caught David watching her with an unreadable expression. She gave him a tiny nod. Ready. The meeting began smoothly. David presented Richardson International's expansion plans, and Emily translated with growing confidence. The numbers, the projections, the logistics, it all flowed naturally. She had studied well. Then Omar Rashid leaned forward and asked a question that made Emily's stomach drop. In Arabic, he said, Mr. Richardson, we appreciate your presentation. But tell me, what guarantees do we have that your company won't abandon this partnership when a more profitable American opportunity arises? We have been burned before by companies who see the Middle East as merely a stepping stone. Emily paused. This was not just translation. This was the heart of their concern, wrapped in diplomatic language, but with real pain underneath. She turned to David and translated carefully. Mr. Richardson, Mr. Rashid wants to know what guarantees you can provide that Richardson International views this partnership as a long-term commitment, not just a profitable opportunity. He mentions they have had negative experiences with American companies treating Middle Eastern partnerships as temporary. David's expression did not change, but Emily saw his fingers tighten slightly on his pen. He took a breath and began speaking, his voice measured. Please tell Mr. Rashid that I understand his concern. My father built this company on handshake deals and keeping his word. When Richardson International commits to a partnership, we commit fully. This is not about a quick profit. This is about building something that lasts decades. Emily translated, but as she spoke, she saw Omar's expression remain skeptical. Fatima Hassan was watching her intently, and Emily realized the woman was fluent in English. She was testing Emily's accuracy. Khalid Al-Mansour interjected with another question in Arabic. Beautiful words, Mr. Richardson, but words are easy. What are you willing to risk personally to prove this commitment? Emily hesitated for just a fraction of a second. This was dangerous territory. She could soften the question, make it more palatable, but that would be dishonest. She translated exactly what was said. David's blue eyes locked onto hers for a moment, and she saw a flash of something: respect. He turned to face Khalid directly. Ask him what he needs to see, Emily translated. The room went quiet. Khalid Al-Mansour smiled slowly. I need to see that you understand our world, not just our money. Come to Dubai. Not for a day, not for a quick tour. Come for 2 weeks. Learn our business, meet our people, eat at our tables. Bring Miss Carter. If, after 2 weeks, we both still want this partnership, then we will have something real. As Emily translated, she saw David's jaw tighten. 2 weeks away from Chicago, from the company, from whatever else he had planned. This was not in the proposal. But when David spoke, his voice was clear. When do we leave? The tension in the room broke like a wave. Khalid stood, extending his hand. Next month. December in Dubai is beautiful. As the meeting wrapped up with handshakes and promises to finalize details, Emily felt dizzy. Had that really just happened? Had David Richardson just agreed to take her to Dubai? The Al-Mansour delegation left with satisfied smiles. James Mitchell, who had been sitting silently in the corner taking notes, let out a long breath. That was either brilliant or insane, James said. Sometimes they are the same thing, David replied, then turned to Emily. Carter, my office. Now. Emily followed David into his office, her heart hammering. Was he angry? Had she overstepped by translating so directly? David closed the door and turned to face her, running a hand through his hair, a gesture she was beginning to recognize as his tell when he was stressed. You did not soften Omar's question, he said. No, sir. You asked me to be precise. He was testing us. If I had softened it, Fatima Hassan would have known. She speaks English. I know she does. David walked to his window, hands in his pockets. You handled that perfectly. Most translators would have panicked or tried to make it easier. You gave me the truth. Emily released a breath she did not know she was holding. David turned back to her. Dubai, 2 weeks. I will need you to prepare cultural briefings, language materials, business protocol. Can you handle that on top of your regular work? Sir, about that. Emily's voice was steady despite her nerves. If I am going to do this job, I cannot also do my administrative job. I need to be officially reassigned. The words hung in the air. She had just demanded something from the CEO of the company. David studied her for a long moment. Then a genuine smile crossed his face, the first real one she had seen from him. You are absolutely right. Consider yourself the new Director of International Relations, effective immediately. Salary commensurate with the position. Report directly to me. James will handle the paperwork. Emily's knees went weak. Director, sir, you earned it. In 1 morning you did what most people could not do in a year. He extended his hand. Welcome to the executive team, Miss Carter. She shook his hand, his grip warm and firm. Thank you, Mr. Richardson. David, he said, if we are going to spend 2 weeks in Dubai together, you should probably use my first name. Emily tried out the name silently in her mind. David. It felt dangerous and thrilling all at once. Then you should call me Emily. Emily. The way he said her name made her stomach flip. Go home. Get some rest. Tomorrow, we start planning. As Emily walked to the elevator, her phone buzzed with texts from colleagues who had somehow already heard about her promotion, but she barely noticed them. She kept replaying that moment, the way he had said her name. The elevator doors closed, and Emily caught her reflection again. This time, the woman staring back looked different. She looked like someone with a future. 3 weeks flew by in a blur of preparations, meetings, and late nights at the office. Emily's new position came with a corner office on the 22nd floor, a view of Grant Park, and a workload that made her old administrative job look like vacation. She loved every exhausting minute of it. Your passport is current, right? David asked, appearing in her doorway on a Wednesday afternoon. He had developed a habit of dropping by her office without warning, something that made her assistant, Marcus, raise his eyebrows knowingly every time. Emily looked up from the cultural briefing she was preparing. Yes, though the most exotic place it has been to is Toronto for a college friend's wedding. Dubai will be slightly different than Toronto. David leaned against her doorframe, tie loosened, looking more relaxed than she had ever seen him. Have you been to the Middle East before? No. My mother always talked about taking me to Lebanon, but Emily trailed off. The complicated relationship between her American father and Lebanese mother had made family trips anywhere a negotiation neither parent wanted to attempt. But family is complicated, David finished quietly. Yes. Emily studied him. You understand that. It was not a question. Over the past weeks, she had learned things about David Richardson that the company gossip mill had never mentioned, like how he took his coffee black with exactly 1 sugar, how he always arrived before 7 and left after 8, how he had built Richardson International from his father's small import business into an empire but rarely talked about his father. My father died 5 years ago, David said, answering her unspoken question. Heart attack at his desk. He was 62. The company almost collapsed. Everyone expected me to fail. But you did not. No, I did not. His expression was distant. But I also did not have time for anything else. No relationships that lasted, no hobbies, just work. The vulnerability in his voice made Emily's chest tighten. Before she could respond, her phone rang. She glanced at the screen and winced. I need to take this. It is my mother. David nodded and stepped out, closing the door behind him. Hi, Mama, Emily answered in Arabic. Habibi, you have not called in 3 weeks. Her mother's voice carried that particular mix of concern and accusation that only mothers could master. I hear from your cousin Layla that you got a promotion. Why do I learn this from Layla and not from my own daughter? Emily rubbed her temples. I have been busy, Mama. The promotion came with a lot of new responsibilities. Too busy for your mother. This is what America does. Makes everyone too busy for family. Mama, please, I'm actually going to Dubai next month for work for 2 weeks. Silence. Then, Dubai? With who? Is this safe? Emily, you should not travel alone too. I'm not going alone. I'm going with my boss, the CEO. It is for an important business deal. Another pause. Emily could practically hear her mother's thoughts spinning. This boss, is he married? Mama, it is a simple question. You are 28, Emily. When I was your age, I already had you, and I have to go. There is a meeting. I love you. Bye. Emily hung up and dropped her head onto her desk. When she looked up, David was standing in her doorway again, holding 2 cups of coffee and trying very hard not to smile. Mothers are universal, he said, handing her a cup. Mine used to ask why I was not married every Sunday dinner. Eventually she gave up and started asking about the company instead. Your mother sounds more reasonable than mine. Emily sipped the coffee. Perfect, 1 sugar, he remembered. Mine is already imagining wedding bells because I am traveling with an unmarried man for work. The words hung in the air a moment too long. David's expression shifted, something flickering in his blue eyes that made Emily's pulse quicken. For what it is worth, he said carefully, I am not married. Never have been. Came close once, 7 years ago. She left because, and I quote, she was tired of competing with a company for my attention. Was she right? Yes. David sat down in the chair across from her desk. I chose the company, every time. It was easier than risking failure at something personal. Emily set down her coffee cup. That sounds lonely. It was, is. He met her eyes. But lately, it has been less so. The moment stretched between them, charged with something Emily was afraid to name. She was his employee. This was professional. This trip was about business. But the way he was looking at her suggested his thoughts were straying far from quarterly reports. Her phone buzzed, breaking the spell. A text from James Mitchell. Board meeting in 10 minutes. Need you both. David stood abruptly, the professional mask sliding back into place. Duty calls. Walk with me? The board meeting was brutal. 3 hours of presentations, questions, and thinly veiled skepticism about the Al Mansour deal. Several board members questioned the wisdom of David spending 2 weeks away from headquarters. One particularly hostile board member, Richard Hartman, practically sneered when he asked about Emily's qualifications. "With all due respect, Mr. Richardson," Hartman said, his tone suggesting no respect whatsoever, "Miss Carter has been with the company for 3 years in an administrative capacity. How can we trust such an important negotiation to someone so inexperienced?" Emily felt her face flush, but before she could respond, David's voice cut through the room like ice. "Miss Carter's qualifications include fluency in Arabic, a degree in international economics from Northwestern, and the skill to salvage a $40 million deal when our previous translator failed us. If anyone else at this table can match those credentials, please speak up now." Silence. "I thought not." David's gaze swept the room. "This company was built on taking calculated risks. This is one of them. The vote is whether to proceed with the Dubai visit. All in favor?" The vote passed. Barely, but it passed. As the board members filed out, Emily remained seated, her hands shaking slightly. David waited until the room emptied before turning to her. "Are you okay? I just sat through a board meeting where someone questioned whether I am competent enough to do my job, so I have been better." Emily tried to keep her voice steady. David sat down next to her, close enough that she could smell his cologne, something woodsy and expensive. Hartman is a dinosaur who thinks women belong in secretarial pools and people under 40 cannot be trusted. He has been trying to undermine me since my father died. Do not let him get to you. Easy for you to say, you are the CEO. I am still the girl who used to staple his reports. No. David's voice was firm. You are the Director of International Relations who saved a $40 million deal with one phone call. You are the person who stood in front of 3 tough negotiators and did not blink. You are brilliant, capable, and yes, you are more than ready for this. Emily turned to look at him and found his face much closer than she expected. His eyes were intense, burning with something that made her breath catch. "David," she whispered. His phone rang, shrill in the quiet room. He pulled back, blinking as if waking from a dream, and answered it with a clipped Richardson. Emily stood quickly, gathering her things. "I should go. Finish those briefing documents." "Emily, wait." But she was already at the door, her heart pounding so hard she thought he might hear it. In the hallway she leaned against the wall and closed her eyes. This was dangerous. This feeling blooming between them was dangerous. She was falling for David Richardson. And from the way he had looked at her, the terrifying, thrilling truth was that he might be falling too. The Emirates flight touched down in Dubai at sunset, and Emily pressed her face against the window like a child seeing snow for the first time. The city glittered below, impossible towers of glass and steel rising from the desert like a mirage made real. "First impression?" David asked beside her. They had flown business class, and 14 hours sitting inches apart had been a study in tension and carefully maintained boundaries. "It looks like someone told architects that gravity was optional," Emily said, watching the Burj Khalifa pierce the orange sky. David laughed, a real genuine laugh that crinkled the corners of his eyes. "Wait until you see it at night." The Al Mansour Holdings limousine met them at the airport, and soon they were gliding down Sheikh Zayed Road, surrounded by construction cranes and buildings that seemed to defy physics. Their hotel, the Burj Al Arab, sat on its own artificial island, shaped like a sail catching the Arabian Gulf breeze. "This is where we are staying," Emily breathed as they pulled up to the entrance. The building was impossibly white against the darkening sky, lit from below with colors that shifted from blue to purple to gold. "Khalid Al-Mansour believes in making statements," David said. "He booked the entire executive floor for the 2 weeks." A thought struck Emily. "How many rooms is that?" 4 suites. 1 for me, 1 for you, 1 for Khalid when he visits, and 1 for his daughter who is flying in tomorrow." Relief and disappointment warred in Emily's chest. Separate rooms. Professional. Safe. So why did she feel let down? Emily's suite was larger than her entire apartment in Logan Square. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the Gulf, a king-sized bed that could sleep 4, a marble bathroom with a tub the size of a small swimming pool, and enough gold leaf to make King Midas jealous. She was unpacking when her phone rang. "David. Dinner in 20 minutes. Traditional Emirati restaurant. Khalid wants to welcome us properly. I'll be ready. Emily changed into a modest navy dress that covered her shoulders and fell below her knees, appropriate for the cultural context her research had taught her. She added a light scarf and minimal jewelry. When she met David in the lobby, his expression made her pulse quicken. He was staring at her like he was seeing her for the first time. "You look," he started, then seemed to catch himself. "Appropriate. Professional." "You look nice too," Emily said, then immediately felt stupid. "Nice?" He looked devastating in a crisp white shirt and dark slacks, his usual tie absent, top button undone. The restaurant was tucked in the old quarter of Dubai, far from the gleaming towers. It was small, intimate, with low cushioned seating and the smell of cardamom and saffron thick in the air. Khalid al-Mansour was already there, along with Omar Rashid and two other men Emily did not recognize. But no Fatima Hassan. As they settled onto the cushions, removing their shoes as custom dictated, Khalid smiled warmly. "Welcome to Dubai, my friends. For the next 2 weeks, you are not guests. You are family." The word family sent a pang through Emily. She caught David's eye and saw understanding there. They both knew what complicated families felt like. Dinner was a feast. Lamb makbuz, grilled hammerfish, warm Koob's bread, and dishes Emily could not name, but that melted on her tongue. The men spoke in rapid Arabic, testing Emily, and she kept pace, translating for David while also fielding questions about American business practices. Then Khalid asked something that made Emily's stomach drop. "Miss Carter, tell me, what is your relationship with Mr. Richardson? Business partners or perhaps something more?" The question hung in the air. Emily felt David tense beside her. She could lie, should lie. But Fatima Hassan's words from the Chicago meeting echoed in her mind. "Business is built on trust." "We are colleagues, sir," Emily said carefully in Arabic, "and I hope we are becoming friends. Mr. Richardson is a man of integrity, and I am honored to work with him." Khalid studied her, then nodded slowly. "Friendship is a good foundation, for business and for other things." The knowing look in his eyes made Emily's cheeks warm. After dinner, as they walked back to the waiting car, David touched her elbow gently. "What did he ask you, right at the end? You looked uncomfortable." Emily debated lying, then remembered her own words about trust. "He asked about our relationship, whether we were more than business partners." David stopped walking. They were standing in a narrow alley between old stone buildings, the scent of jasmine and spices drifting from nearby windows. In the distance, a call to prayer echoed across the city. "What did you tell him?" "The truth, that we are colleagues, friends." "Is that what we are?" David's voice was quiet, dangerous. "Friends." Emily's heart hammered. "What else would we be?" "I do not know." He stepped closer, and suddenly the alley felt very small. "But for weeks now I cannot stop thinking about you. About the way you looked when you first translated in that meeting. About how you laugh at my terrible jokes. About how you take your coffee with too much cream and always kick off your heels under your desk when you think nobody is watching." "David," Emily whispered, torn between wanting to close the distance between them and knowing all the reasons she should not. "I know this is complicated. I am your boss. We are here for business. But Emily, I need you to know that this—" He gestured between them. "This is not just professional for me anymore." Before Emily could respond, voices echoed from the restaurant entrance. Omar Rashid was calling out to them, asking if everything was okay. David stepped back, the moment shattered. "We should go." In the car ride back to the hotel, they sat in silence, the weight of unspoken words heavy between them. Emily stared out at the glittering city and wondered if she was about to make the worst mistake of her life, or the best decision she had ever made. At 3 in the morning, Emily gave up on sleep. The time difference had her wide awake, and her mind would not stop replaying David's words in that alley. She grabbed her laptop and settled on the balcony, overlooking the Gulf. The water was black velvet studded with the lights of distant ships. She tried to focus on work emails, but her cursor kept hovering over David's name in her contacts. A knock on her suite door made her jump. Through the peephole she saw David, hair disheveled, wearing a hotel robe. She opened the door. "Everything okay?" "I could not sleep." His eyes were intense, searching hers. "Can we talk?" Emily's rational mind screamed that this was a terrible idea. A man in her hotel room at 3 in the morning, her boss, in a foreign country where they were supposed to be conducting critical business. She opened the door wider. "Come in." David walked past her to the balcony, leaning on the railing. Emily joined him, maintaining careful distance. "7 years ago, when Rebecca left," David began, "she told me I was not capable of putting anyone before my work. She said I would die alone in an office, surrounded by profit reports instead of people. And I believed her. I threw myself into the company even harder because it was safer. Buildings do not leave you. Contracts do not break your heart. David, let me finish." He turned to face her. "Then 3 weeks ago, a woman answered a phone in Arabic and saved not just a business deal, but reminded me what I had been missing. You are brilliant and brave and kind. You make terrible jokes, and you are weirdly passionate about deep dish pizza versus New York style. Deep dish is superior, and I will die on that hill," Emily interjected, earning a soft laugh. "See? You make me laugh. You make me want to leave the office before 8. You make me want to be more than just the CEO. His voice dropped. "You make me want to risk something personal again." Emily's eyes burned with unshed tears. "This is terrifying." "I know. You are my boss. There are rules, protocols, HR nightmares." "I know. And I am falling for you anyway," Emily whispered. David's expression transformed, hope and relief and something fiercer flooding his features. "Say that again." "I am falling for you, David Richardson, and it is the most terrifying, exhilarating thing I have ever felt." He crossed the distance between them in 2 steps, his hands cupping her face with infinite gentleness. "Can I kiss you?" Emily's answer was to rise on her toes and close the final inches between them. The kiss was soft at first, tentative, a question and an answer all at once. Then David's arms wrapped around her waist, pulling her closer, and Emily's hands tangled in his hair, and the kiss deepened into something that stole her breath and made her forget about protocols and rules and everything, except the feel of his lips on hers and the way her heart was soaring over the Arabian Gulf. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, David rested his forehead against hers. "We should probably talk about what this means," he murmured. "Probably," Emily agreed. "But maybe later." "Definitely later." He kissed her again, and Emily decided that some risks were worth taking. Even terrifying ones. Especially terrifying ones. Emily woke to sunlight streaming through the curtains and the smell of strong Arabic coffee. For a blissful moment she forgot where she was. Then memory flooded back. The balcony, the kiss, David's arms around her. She smiled into her pillow like a teenager. Her phone buzzed with a text from David. "Good morning. Business meetings start at 10. But breakfast first? Rooftop restaurant in 30 minutes? Emily typed back, "I'll be there." She dressed carefully in a professional cream blouse and charcoal slacks, pulled her hair into a neat bun, and tried to look like someone who had not spent half the night kissing her boss on a balcony, overlooking the Arabian Gulf. The rooftop restaurant offered a 360-degree view of Dubai. David was already there, looking unfairly handsome in a grey suit, his tie perfectly knotted. When he saw her, his professional expression melted into something warmer. "Good morning," he said, standing to pull out her chair. "Good morning." Emily sat, hyper-aware of how close they were, how different everything felt now. "We should talk," David began, his voice low. "About last night, about us." "David, Miss Carter, Mr. Richardson." They both turned to see Fatima Hassan striding across the restaurant, elegant in a tailored pantsuit, her expression unreadable. "Miss Hassan," David stood, extending his hand. "We were not expecting you until this afternoon." Plans changed. Fatima's sharp eyes flickered between them, and Emily had the uncomfortable feeling that she saw far too much. "I hope I'm not interrupting anything important." "Just breakfast," Emily said smoothly, gesturing to the empty chair. "Please join us." Over coffee and dates, Fatima outlined the day's schedule. Meetings at Al Mansour's headquarters, a tour of their shipping facilities, dinner with the executive team. Professional. Busy. No time for personal conversations. But as they walked to the waiting car, Fatima touched Emily's elbow. "A word, please." David glanced back, concerned, but Emily nodded for him to go ahead. When they were alone, Fatima's expression shifted from professional to something almost maternal. "I have been in business for 25 years, she said quietly. "I recognize the signs, the way he looks at you, the way you blush when he speaks." Emily's heart sank. "Miss Hassan, I can assure you, I am not judging." Fatima's voice was kind. "But I am warning you, Khalid is old-fashioned. If he suspects that this partnership is complicated by personal feelings, he will walk away. $40 million, gone. And your career?" She shook her head. "In his eyes, you would be the distraction, not the asset." The words hit Emily like cold water. "I understand." "Do you?" Fatima studied her. "Because I see a brilliant young woman at the beginning of a promising career. Do not let a romance, however genuine, destroy what you have built." The meetings were grueling. 6 hours of presentations, negotiations, and detailed discussions about logistics that required Emily's complete focus. She translated flawlessly, maintained professional distance from David, and ignored the way her heart ached every time their eyes met across the conference table. During a break, Emily stepped outside to the balcony of Al-Mansour's 50th floor offices. The desert stretched beyond the city, endless and golden in the afternoon sun. Her phone rang. A Chicago number she did not recognize. "Emily Carter." "Miss Carter, this is Richard Hartman." The hostile board member's voice was cold. "I thought you should know that certain information has come to my attention regarding your trip to Dubai." Emily's stomach dropped. "What information?" "A witness saw you and Mr. Richardson in what appeared to be a very unprofessional situation at your hotel at 3 in the morning. Hartman's voice dripped with malicious satisfaction. "I am calling an emergency board meeting for when you return. This company has ethics standards, Miss Carter, and relationships between executives, particularly when one has power over the other's career, violate those standards. Mr. Hartman, I do not know what you think you saw, but save it for the board. Enjoy the rest of your trip." He hung up. Emily stood frozen, her hands shaking. Someone had been watching them. Someone had reported back to Hartman. This could destroy everything. The deal, David's reputation, her career. Behind her, the balcony door opened. David stepped out, his expression concerned. "Emily, you look pale. What happened?" She told him everything. With each word, she watched his expression harden. "Hartman," David said finally, his voice tight with anger. "He has been looking for a way to undermine me for years, and now he has ammunition." "David, I am so sorry. I should have been more careful. I should have—" "Stop." He grabbed her hands. "This is not your fault. We are two adults who developed feelings for each other. That is not a crime. But it could cost us everything." Emily's voice broke. "The deal, your company, my career. Fatima already warned me this morning. If Khalid finds out if he thinks this is about anything other than business, then we will deal with it." David's jaw set in a way she was learning meant he had made a decision. "Together." "No." Emily pulled her hands away, her heart shattering with every word. "Not together. David, you need to go back in there and close this deal. You need to save your company. And I need to not be the reason it all falls apart. Emily, do not do this." "I have to." Tears burned her eyes. Fatima was right. I am a distraction. And Hartman is going to use this to destroy both of us if we are not careful. So for the next week, we need to be nothing but professional. No more balcony conversations. No more secret looks. We finish this deal, we go home, and we face the board. And then what? David's voice was rough with emotion. "I do not know." Emily forced herself to step back. "But right now, we have to focus on what matters. The company, the deal, everything we have worked for." David looked like he wanted to argue, but voices echoed from inside. Khalid calling them back to the conference room. "We are not done with this conversation," David said quietly. "I know." They walked back inside, maintaining careful distance, their faces professional masks hiding the wreckage underneath. That night, Emily sat alone in her suite, staring at her laptop without seeing it. Her phone buzzed constantly, texts from David that she could not bring herself to answer, an email from James Mitchell asking if everything was okay, a voicemail from her mother that Emily deleted without listening to. A knock at her door made her jump. Through the peephole, she saw Fatima Hassan. Emily opened the door, confused. "Miss Hassan, it is nearly midnight." "I know. May I come in?" They sat on the balcony, the gulf a black mirror reflecting the city lights. Fatima was quiet for a long moment. "I owe you an apology," she said finally. "This morning I warned you about risking your career for romance, but tonight I spoke with Khalid, and he told me something that changes things." Emily's heart hammered. "What did he say?" "He said he knew from the first meeting in Chicago, the way Mr. Richardson looked at you, defended you, the way you looked at him." Fatima smiled slightly. "Khalid is old-fashioned, yes, but he is also a romantic. He said any man who would fight for someone the way Mr. Richardson fought for you in that board meeting, that is a man of loyalty, of heart. Those are the men worth doing business with." Emily felt tears spill over. "I do not understand." "He is not going to walk away from the deal because you and Mr. Richardson have feelings for each other. If anything, it makes him trust you both more. Love makes people fight harder, work harder, care more deeply." Fatima reached over and squeezed Emily's hand. "I spent so many years being careful, being professional, that I forgot the best partnerships are built on passion, not just for business, but for life." After Fatima left, Emily stood on the balcony, her phone in her hand. She typed a message to David. "We need to talk. My balcony, please." His response was immediate. "On my way." When he arrived, windswept and anxious, Emily did not wait for him to speak. She crossed the distance between them and kissed him like it was the answer to every question they had been afraid to ask. "I was wrong," she whispered against his lips. "We should not hide this. We should not be afraid." David's arms wrapped around her, holding her like she was precious, fragile, essential. "Are you sure?" Terrified but sure. They stood there wrapped in each other as the city glittered below, both knowing that harder battles waited back in Chicago. But for now, they had this. They had each other. And somehow, that felt like enough. The flight back to Chicago felt both too long and too short. Emily and David sat side by side, fingers intertwined under the armrest where no one could see, stealing what moments of connection they could before landing in the storm waiting for them. The deal with Al Mansour Holdings was signed, sealed, and perfect. $40 million secured, a partnership that would transform Richardson International. But none of that would matter if the board decided their relationship was grounds for termination. "We will face this together," David whispered, as the plane descended through grey November clouds. Chicago looked cold and unwelcoming after Dubai's golden warmth. "Together," Emily echoed, squeezing his hand. James Mitchell met them at O'Hare, his expression grim. "The board meeting is scheduled for tomorrow morning, 9 sharp. Hartman has been poisoning the well for the past week. Half the board thinks you two compromised the deal with unprofessional behavior." "The deal is signed," David said coldly. "That should be all that matters." "Should be. But Hartman is making this about ethics, about power dynamics, about—" James glanced at Emily apologetically. "About whether a relationship between a CEO and someone he promoted constitutes favoritism." Emily felt her stomach drop. "I earned that promotion. I saved that deal." "I know, we all know. But Hartman has crafted a narrative, and narratives are powerful." James ran a hand through his hair. "David, he is calling for your resignation. And Emily, he wants you terminated." The words hung in the cold car like a death sentence. That night, Emily could not sleep. She sat in her tiny Logan Square apartment, Humphrey purring in her lap, staring at the email she had drafted and deleted 5 times. "To the Board of Directors of Richardson International Trading, I am writing to tender my resignation, effective immediately." Her phone rang. "David, do not do it," he said without preamble. "Do what?" "Whatever you are thinking. Falling on your sword to protect me, to protect the company. Emily, do not you dare resign." "How did you—" "Because I know you. You are probably sitting there thinking that if you quit, Hartman loses his ammunition, that the board will let me stay if you are gone." His voice was rough with emotion. "But I will not let you sacrifice your career for this. For me. David, I love you." Emily's breath caught. They had not said those words yet, had been too afraid, too careful. "I love you," David repeated, stronger this time. "And I'm not letting Hartman or anyone else make you feel like loving me is something to be ashamed of. We go into that board meeting tomorrow together. We tell them the truth, and whatever happens, we face it together. Tears streamed down Emily's face. I love you too. So much it terrifies me. Good. Terror means it matters. She heard him smile through the phone. Get some sleep. Tomorrow, we fight. The Richardson International Boardroom felt like a courtroom. 12 board members sat around the massive table, their expressions ranging from sympathetic to openly hostile. Richard Hartman sat at the far end, looking like a cat who had caught a particularly satisfying canary. Emily and David sat side by side, their hands clasped under the table. Hartman opened the proceedings with a smile that did not reach his eyes. Thank you all for coming. We are here to address serious allegations regarding Mr. Richardson and Miss Carter's conduct during the Dubai trip. Conduct that, I believe, violates our ethics policies and calls into question the integrity of our recent deal. The deal is solid, David said, his voice like steel. $40 million, verified by our legal team and signed by all parties. Whatever personal relationship Miss Carter and I have developed does not change that. Does not change it. Hartman leaned forward. Mr. Richardson, you promoted Miss Carter from an administrative position to Director of International Relations in a matter of weeks. You then took her on an international trip where, according to witnesses, you engaged in intimate behavior. This is textbook abuse of power. Emily felt her face flush with anger. Before David could respond, she spoke up. May I say something? Several board members looked surprised that she would speak. Hartman's expression darkened. Miss Carter, this is not... I earned my position. Emily's voice was clear and strong. 3 years ago, I graduated from Northwestern with honors in economics. I applied for analyst positions here twice and was rejected, not because I was unqualified, but because it was easier to keep me in administrative. When the company needed an Arabic translator, I stepped up. I salvaged a failing negotiation. I translated complex business materials, and I helped secure a deal worth $40 million. She stood, her hands steady despite her racing heart. Yes, I fell in love with David Richardson during that process. And yes, he fell in love with me. But that love did not earn me my promotion. My skills did. My work did. My willingness to step up when the company needed me did. Emily met Hartman's gaze directly. If you want to fire me because I am in a relationship with the CEO, that is your choice. But do not you dare suggest that I did not earn everything I achieved. Silence filled the room. Then Margaret Chen, the oldest board member and a woman Emily had always respected, spoke up. Richard, I have read Miss Carter's work on the Dubai deal. Her translations, her cultural briefings, her negotiation notes. They are flawless. Beyond flawless, they are brilliant. That is not the point, Hartman started. It is exactly the point, Margaret interrupted. You have been trying to undermine David since his father died because you wanted this CEO position for yourself. This is not about ethics. This is about you finding a weapon to use against him. Murmurs of agreement rippled around the table. Hartman's face reddened. David stood, his hand finding Emily's. I am in love with Emily Carter. I make no apologies for that. But I also run this company with integrity. If the board feels that our relationship compromises that integrity, I will step down. But Emily stays. She earned her position, and she deserves her career. David, no, Emily whispered. However, David continued, his gaze sweeping the room, if I step down, I take the Al Mansour partnership with me. Khalid made it clear. He trusts me, he trusts Emily, and he trusts us together. Without us, that deal evaporates. Hartman shot to his feet. You cannot blackmail this board. It is not blackmail, it is reality. David's voice was calm. So here is my proposal. Emily and I agree to counseling to ensure no favoritism in future business decisions. We sign agreements making our relationship transparent. We follow whatever protocols the board requires, but we do not hide, we do not apologize, and we do not let anyone suggest that loving each other makes us less capable of doing our jobs. Margaret Chen smiled. I move that we accept Mr. Richardson's proposal and move forward with the Al Mansour partnership. All in favor? 8 hands went up. Only Hartman and his 2 closest allies abstained. The motion passed. Outside the boardroom, Emily sagged against the wall, her knees weak with relief. David wrapped his arms around her, and she buried her face in his chest. "We did it," she whispered. "You did it. That speech was incredible." He tilted her chin up to meet his eyes. "You were magnificent." "We were magnificent," Emily corrected. "Together." James Mitchell appeared around the corner, grinning wider than Emily had ever seen. "So, should I start planning a company party to celebrate the deal, or are we calling it an engagement party?" "James!" Emily felt her cheeks burn. David laughed, a real joyful sound that echoed through the hallway. "One thing at a time." "But," he looked down at Emily, his blue eyes warm with promise. "Maybe not too long from now." Emily's heart soared. Maybe not. As they walked out of Richardson International together, hand in hand, the Chicago wind was cold, but Emily barely felt it. She had fought for her career, for her love, and for herself, and she had won. All of it. The spring air was warm, as Emily stood on the rooftop terrace of Richardson International's new Dubai office, watching the sun set over the Arabian Gulf. The building was smaller than Al Mansour's headquarters, but it was theirs. The first international expansion in the company's 50-year history. "Penny, for your thoughts?" David's arms wrapped around her waist from behind, his chin resting on her shoulder. Emily leaned back against him, her left hand catching the light. The diamond on her ring finger sparkled like the city below. "Just remembering the first time I was here. How terrified I was. How different everything looked. And now it feels like home." She turned in his arms. "Both cities do, as long as you are there." David kissed her softly, a promise and a celebration all at once. "Mrs. Richardson Carter has a nice ring to it." "We are not married yet," Emily laughed. "And I am keeping Carter, hyphenated at most. I know, I love that about you." His eyes were warm with affection. Strong, stubborn, brilliant Emily Carter, who never lets anyone define her but herself. A knock interrupted them. Fatima Hassan stepped onto the terrace, elegant as always, smiling at them both. "The Al Mansour family has arrived for dinner, and Emily, your mother is asking about you in very loud Arabic. Something about making sure the caterers understand that the hummus needs more tahini." Emily groaned. "Of course she is. I will be right there." Fatima paused, her expression turning sentimental. "You know, when I first met you two in Chicago, I saw potential. But this," she gestured between them, at the office, at the city beyond, "this exceeded every expectation. You built something remarkable, together." After Fatima left, Emily took one more moment alone with David on the rooftop where their story had truly begun. "Nervous about tonight?" David asked. "Your whole family, my mother, Khalid's entire clan, half the board." "Terrified," Emily admitted. "My father still barely speaks to my mother. Your mother keeps asking when we are giving her grandchildren. Khalid keeps making jokes about how he played matchmaker. And Hartman resigned 6 months ago, remember? Moved to Florida, probably terrorizing retirees on a golf course somewhere." Emily laughed despite her nerves. "Right, okay, we can do this. It is just an engagement party with 100 people watching our every move." "Hey," David tilted her face up to meet his eyes. "Remember what you told the board? That you earned everything you achieved, you did, we did together, and everyone down there? They are here because they love us, or they respect what we built, or, in your cousin Layla's case, they want free champagne." "Layla does love free champagne," Emily agreed, smiling. They rode the elevator down to the main event space, where the party was already in full swing. The room was a beautiful blend of cultures: deep dish pizza from Lou Malnati's flown-in special, alongside Lebanese mezze platters. Chicago jazz played while guests in both Western suits and traditional Middle Eastern attire mingled and laughed. Emily's mother, Nadia, descended on her immediately, switching between Arabic and English so rapidly that even Emily struggled to keep up. "Habibi, you look beautiful, but you are too thin. Are you eating? And David, he is a good man, yes, but when is the wedding? Your cousin Layla is already asking if she can bring a date." "Mama, breathe," Emily said, kissing her mother's cheek. "Everything is perfect, I promise." Her father, Tom Carter, stood awkwardly to the side, but when Emily caught his eye, he smiled, a genuine proud smile that made her throat tight. "You did good, kiddo," he said quietly, hugging her. "Really good. Your old man is proud of you." "Thanks, Dad." David's mother, Patricia Richardson, was holding court near the windows, regaling anyone who would listen with stories about David as a child. When she saw Emily, her face lit up. "There is my brilliant future daughter-in-law. Emily, I was just telling everyone about how you convinced David to finally clean out his father's office. Do you know he had been avoiding that for 5 years?" Emily glanced at David, who looked sheepish. It had been a difficult afternoon, sorting through Richard Richardson's belongings, but cathartic. David had finally made peace with his father's memory and his own path forward. Khalid Al-Mansour raised his glass for a toast, his booming voice silencing the crowd. "When I first met David and Emily in Chicago, I saw two professionals trying very hard to pretend they were not falling in love." Laughter rippled through the room, but I also saw something more important. I saw partnership. Trust, the willingness to fight for what matters. That is what builds empires, not just business empires, but empires of the heart. He turned to face them directly. "You two showed me that the best deals are not built on contracts, but on genuine connection. You took a risk on each other, and in doing so, you built something extraordinary. To David and Emily, may your love be as enduring as your business partnership." "To David and Emily," the room echoed. Emily felt tears prick her eyes. David's hand found hers, squeezing gently. As the party continued into the night, Emily found herself on the terrace again, needing a moment of quiet. The city glittered below, a tapestry of lights and life. She thought about the woman she had been a year ago, invisible, afraid to push for more, hiding her talents. That woman felt like a stranger now. "There you are." David joined her, carrying 2 glasses of champagne. "Escaping your own party?" "Just taking it all in." Emily accepted the glass. "A year ago I was stapling reports and answering phones. Now I am the Director of International Relations, engaged to the CEO, standing on the rooftop of our Dubai office. It feels like a dream." "It is not a dream. You earned every bit of this." David set down his glass and took her hands. "Emily Carter, you changed my life. You reminded me that success means nothing if you have no one to share it with. You taught me that taking risks on people, on love, is the most important business decision anyone can make." "You changed my life too," Emily whispered. "You saw me when I felt invisible. You believed in me when I did not believe in myself. You loved me when I was too afraid to love back." "I will love you forever," David said, his voice thick with emotion. "Through every deal, every challenge, every adventure, you are my partner in everything." They kissed as the city lights twinkled around them like fallen stars, and somewhere below the party continued. A celebration of love, of courage, of 2 people who answered a phone call and found their entire world changed. Epilogue 5 years later. The Chicago Tribune article hung framed in Emily's office. Richardson International Trading expands to 5 Middle Eastern markets. CEO David Richardson credits wife and co-president Emily Richardson Carter for company's historic growth. Below it, a photo of them cutting the ribbon at their newest office in Beirut. Emily's mother stood beside them, crying happy tears, finally seeing her daughter standing in the country she had left so many years ago. On Emily's desk sat other mementos: a snow globe from Chicago, sand from the Arabian Gulf, photos of their small wedding on Navy Pier with the city skyline behind them, and a drawing from their 3-year-old daughter, Nadia Rose, who had inherited her mother's stubbornness and her father's blue eyes. Emily heard footsteps and looked up to see David in her doorway, carrying their daughter, who was babbling in a mixture of English and Arabic. "Mama working?" Nadia Rose asked. "Yes, Habibi, but Mama is almost done," Emily said, switching to Arabic seamlessly. "Story time?" the little girl asked hopefully. "Story time," Emily agreed, opening her arms as Nadia Rose scrambled from David's arms to hers. "Which story tonight?" David asked, settling into the chair across from her desk. The same chair where Emily had sat, terrified and hopeful, for that first translation test. "The one about the phone call," Nadia Rose said firmly. It was her favorite. So Emily told the story again, about a young woman who answered a phone in Arabic, and a CEO who needed a miracle, and how one moment of courage changed everything. And as she spoke, with her daughter in her lap, and her husband smiling at her like she hung the moon, Emily Carter Richardson knew that every risk, every fear, every late night and early morning had been worth it. Because sometimes the most important translation is not between languages. It is between what you are and what you could become. It is between fear and courage, between safe and extraordinary, and it starts with one simple choice: to answer the call.